Welcome back, guys, to the fitness podcast. Firstly, we are very, very excited. Just literally, you can see Nathan celebrating like Liverpool just scored a goal, but it's only 11 o'clock right now on a Thursday morning. But we basically look back on our listeners. We look at the data analytics of the podcast. We have a couple of things we want to share.
Shout out to our brothers in Trinidad and Tobago.
We've got listeners in Trinidad and Tobago. It's made my day, to be honest. What was the other random places that we saw? Kansas, Wichita State.
Kansas State.
Like in the middle of Australia, like Uluru or something.
Yeah, people are listening to us on Air Rock, going to one of the natural wonders of the world, thinking, right, know what would be great whilst looking at the view of the sunset and the stars in middle Australia is, I know what I need to listen to. How to Reverse Diet with the Fitness Podcast. Fantastic. we got people in Chennai, we got people in Sri Lanka, we got Colombia, yeah, mashallah, to our Arabic brothers as well in Qatar.
Doha came through in clutch.
Yeah.
Emily, did we get Sweden in here?
Yeah, of course we got Sweden.
I don't really
just myself listening back though.
Imagine if it is just like one little dot, we know that's Emily.
Yeah, you still know where you live now.
Yeah, we know what's going on. America was obviously quite a lot of different states, right? We had Chicago, New York, Philadelphia,
Portland,
Boston. So shout out to all the Americans. We really appreciate it. Just hit us a DM and just let us know
what's you.
Yeah, that'd be great. That it's you that you listen to it. It would be great. And obviously anyone in Trinidad and Tobago, please just find us on IG. You know why IG's at. Just say, hey, this is me, listen to it, and we'll give you a massive shout out to next week in the podcast.
And we also need a good holiday. So I was looking at the islands like Trinidad, Barbados, Jamaica. I was like, well, I could go over there. But now, if you guys have got a little spare, cheeky little room or something like that, us, the Fitness Podcast are going to do a tour, worldwide tour, starting in Trini. I'm going to get those Bajans.
Yeah, we want to do a world tour. We want to start Trinidad and Tobago because that's the first place we saw on the map, and we're like, whoa, we didn't expect it. So any places that we want to go, places that we didn't expect that we had listeners there. So Trinidad and Tobago, you're number one. Let's make it happen. If you're listening to this right now, you're in Trinidad and Tobago, hit us up on Instagram or email or whatever it is. Like, we just want to know who it is. That's it. And then we'll give you a massive shout out next week on the pod.
Absolutely. Special post on the gram.
Yep. So we're back again. This week we wanted to do part 2 on what Nate and Emily mentioned last week was about the topic, which was why you suck at dieting. So Nate, do you want to kick things off?
Yeah, so I'll try and calm it down after being excited. So I'm gassed. I'm like, do you know what? It's just like one of those beautiful things, isn't it? It's like, do you know what? I'm going to reflect for a moment. Not fuck you struggling at dieting. It's about us today. Is that we started this podcast in October. We recorded it. The first episode was being cut out. We started it a bit before, and we were waiting to kind of put out the episodes when we were leaving R&T and stuff like that. But we were just recording podcasts because we wanted to kind of get some message out there. We didn't even know anything was going to come of it, and to be honest, nothing has come of it apart from 5,000 people are listening to our dulcet tones. Is that it's just a bit of fun, and we've done this consistently now. And when we said, if we get past whatever 20 episodes it was, we're technically a podcast. Now we're upwards of 50 episodes or coming up to 50 episodes. It's I think fucking love it. Thursday 11 a.m. is the staple now, and it's great.
How we don't as a pod, by the way, we're very much intuitive. We do intuitive eating with the podcast. We're literally 10 minutes before, we're going to talk about this, and literally they come out bangers. And I'm glad the people have supported. As Nathan said, we just started this off on our back off. And me and Nate just love to have a chat, and we're like, yeah, why don't we just record a podcast, get on Spotify? We're like, yeah, why not? Let's just do it. Then we brought Emily on. Now we're a trio, and it's going to come up to a year very soon. So yeah, I'm just going to start crying in a minute, but here we are. But yeah.
So what we talked about last week was obviously why you suck at dieting for the most part. We went into identity change and relationships and social events, but now what we want to do is flip the switch a bit on what we can actually do from setting yourself up for success part when you're looking at strategy and method. There's so many different methods that you can choose to diet and different ways. We've bashed keto, we've bashed V-Shred, we've bashed all of these ways to kind of get in shape, and like maybe it's probably our responsibility to tell you how and what the best ways are for you to do that instead of just bashing other people. And I think there's so many different ways that you can do that, and ultimately I don't think you'll ever get it right on your first diet. Your first diet, as we've spoken about all our first diets before, are not the way we do things now. And it's always that evolution of understanding you, understanding the circumstance you're in based on what you're trying to achieve. So like for me, I started with like just following a meal plan or just like protein and veggies, and did that to the death with some refeeds at the end. And that worked for me for a while. But it ended up with me just like making the refeeds at the weekend much bigger as I was struggling more during the weeks. And then I used to just eat enough at the weekends to take away the whole deficit for the week. And that was really, really difficult. In future times, I've utilized MyFitnessPal to track calories and stay with that on a day-to-day basis. And then other times I've utilized meal plans and like prep work to just take the guesswork out of it. But what would you say like is I don't want to say the best way to go, but what are the considerations that you'll need to make when looking at finding the right diet for you once you have all the things in the last episode sorted?
Wow. I mean, this could go so many different ways, right? But I would say, first of all, you need to look at your foreseeable future and actually understand that there needs to be a level of planning to actually execute anything, whether it is you're going down the route of tracking food or not tracking food using meal plan or whatever, because it's like we talked about last week where you said, you know, I've been on 1200 calories and I just know when I'm going to increase that. So, you know, that gives you a level of structure that you can work with, obviously taking into consideration that you have the skills to do so. So it's easy for you to choose your method. But I think if someone's never dieted, it's about making it as easy as possible, whilst you actually learn the processes of understanding dieting. So yeah, I mean, wow. I think just honestly, just understanding that there is a level of commitment, and you need to understand at what level of commitment you're willing to go and be realistic, right? I think a lot of people have good intentions about starting counting calories, but they only do it half-heartedly.
Yep.
And that means that it's not the right strategy, because it's not something that works. Well, it can work. You can half-heartedly do things and it can work, but it can also not work. So I really think the first thing is to just actually say, what am I going to stick with for X amount of time, so that I can see that if the method works. That's the first thing, right? If you do this on your own. If you're working with a coach, obviously your coach will help you navigate what would be the best method for you. But yeah, just to understand that there needs to be a realistic expectation of your efforts, and then to match that with the method that's going to work for you. That's the first step. What do you guys think?
It's all about the long term, right? Like when you think about it for these guys, like, because some people, you know, we spoke about the all or nothing mentality in the past, right? Like people come in, all guns blazing. I got 12 weeks, I want to get in amazing shape, or I've signed up for this package. And again, it could be just even with like themselves, right? Because most people do that because of holidays. I've got holidays, so I'm gonna go drastic with this, and that's the reason why. And then if that's worked, for example, like how many people have done, like we've had clients in the past where they've done a juice fast, they've done Cambridge diets, and then they really suck actually dieting prospectively, but like being on 1600 calories, because for them it's like it's too much food or whatever, it's too much volume. I've worked with one lady specifically back in the day. I remember she was like, I'm only used to doing like juice fasts and so on, and you give her like 1600 calories, she still lost a kilo, but she was still baffled at how much she was having more food in that current scenario. She just couldn't believe it, and she was like, it almost was like a big myth to her, and she couldn't just stick to it. She was like, I there's no way I can like eat more food and lose weight. This was just like a anomaly. It was a trick. So it's what you see yourself doing in the long term, I think, is the biggest question you got to ask yourself. And then try and find someone that matches that same philosophy and the same value. Because if you can do that, like, then it's great. You know, we spoke about it about like a couple of weeks about it, you know, just because a train has results doesn't mean that behind the scenes you pull the plug and you realize, okay, there's different things going on. What Nate mentioned, it's the same thing there. Like, figure out what their philosophy and values are, and if you can align yourself to that, then in my opinion, and again, and they can help you. Let's say if your goal is to stay in shape in 5 years time, you've got to start reverse engineering that process from day one. You can't say in fourth year, now I should be in the best shape of my life for the rest of my life, etc., because you haven't done anything for the last 4 years, right? So yeah, I think it also comes down to that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think you'll have an idea because ultimately your environment will mold the way that you are. Like if you're traditional Asian and you're still living at home, there's going to be a point of where you see yourself eating your mom's food for a while. And all of those variables, right? But you don't have to completely change everything you do. But here's some things that you'll need to consider whichever method that you need to utilize. One is that if you don't manage your time, regardless of what method you utilize, it's going to manage you. And that means that you're going to go for the easy option as opposed to the right option, especially when you're trying to change habits and make change. You don't want to put yourself in a scenario where everything you do is reactive and everything is always like last minute. If you make last minute decisions, it's always going to be a bad one. Like the whole nothing ever gets is positive after 2 a.m. in the morning. It's the same mentality. It's like if you make last minute decisions at 2 a.m. in the morning, it always ends up in a nightmare. Nothing ever is great at 2 a.m. So when you're looking at that, time management is key. So and structure is the other one. Like both of those go hand in hand. So whichever method you utilize, meal plans, MyFitnessPal, batch cooking, hand portions, there is going to be a point of where whichever way you do, you're going to go A, to the supermarket, B, you're going to need to know some level of calories or type of portions that you're having, and then C, you're going to need to know how that repeats on a day-to-day basis within your day-to-day. So you're going to need potential meal timings, you're going to need a structure of how to fit them in daily, you're going to need to know what to buy from the supermarket, and you need to know how much you can buy from the supermarket. Those things are non-negotiable unless you're getting delivery or Deliveroo every single day, which is also a great tactic. Like I get the chicken cheeses when I can't be asked cooking, 3 of them a day. It's a great diet hack. But for most people, that isn't sustainable. So you're going to have to make sure that these factors go into your day weekly or every day or monthly or whatever it is, so that you know that when I go to the supermarket to get the results, I'm going to eat these type of food sources in this quantity. So when you're breaking that down, then you have to look at, okay, well, do I know what the right food sources are to lose weight? If the answer is no, then something a little bit more structured and a little bit more principle based will be probably ideal. Like devising a shopping list when you put like a meal plan together for yourself, or your coach has done that for you. You can go and then streamline the process of saying, okay, these are the foods that we need. Then I go to the supermarket and get these specific foods. Then I come home. Then I cook them in every day or in a couple of days format. And then you fit that in with your life. So let's say, for example, if you're living with, you've got a family. So obviously you're going to go to the supermarket anyway for your little one, or you're going to go to the supermarket for your wife anyway, or husband. So therefore, you're going to get food for them as well. And then you're going to try and cook these foods interspersely over the course of the week. If you are more understanding and have the ability to have the mental headspace, and you manage your time correctly, you manage your structure correctly, you can then have more of a laissez-faire approach with probably tracking, because you understand numbers, you understand how to stick within your calories, you know how to change things in and change things out from an app perspective. Then at that point, then you can start buying a lot more variances from the supermarket and then making those decisions on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. And I think that's where you start. You start with time management and structure. And once those things are in play, if you don't really have a fucking clue how to diet, or you've never dieted successfully for a longer period of time than 4 weeks, then start looking at giving yourself some structure, giving yourself some meal times, give yourself some food at each of these meals relative to a calorie goal, and you'll be setting yourself up in a really good format there. What do you guys think?
Yeah, what you said about time is huge, because obviously a lot of the people we work with are busy professionals, right? And the ones who are really successful that we've seen over the last couple of years, and generally when it comes down to transformations, is they've always had the time locked in. Because if they've got that locked in, you've noticed that it comes down to priorities as well. At the same time, it's like, okay, I know I'm going to get my steps in at this particular time. I know I'm going to get my training done at this particular time. I know my meal timings are going to be like, people enjoy that sometimes. They're like, now I've got so much structure in my life. I know I'm going to eat my meal at this time. I'm going to eat my meal at this time. Because a lot of people where they get out of shape usually is because they have no structure at all. And it's just purely winging it on a day-to-day basis, right? So it's like, I love asking a question during consultations. It's like, so give me a day in the life right now of your nutrition. What did you have today? And they're literally a Bambi on ice. They're literally like, I had this, and then today's been bad. The first thing you always hear from them is today's been bad. Like it's never, you know what, today's been a flipping great day. Obviously there wouldn't be a call otherwise, but generally it's always there's something's happened, but it's down to also time as well. Like one of the key things you always hear from them is like, yeah, just haven't had time to eat today. Then they ask, what time do you wake up? Yeah, just roll out of bed at 9 o'clock. Then I had a bit of toast, had a bit of this. So it's always trying to figure out time. And I think if you can know that, and I think a transformation journey can actually help you with time management, funny enough, because you have to force yourself to get better with that, right? Otherwise, it's like you pay a coach, you pay someone, and you're like, oh, actually, I have to do this. I have to get my steps in. What ways you start to figure things out, and ways do I need to get my steps in? When am I going to get training done? So you start to audit yourself a lot better, and then that's when you become a high performer. Like we've seen there transformations where people get really phenomenal results, and they're like, man, this has impacted every other area of my life. It's because the impact it's had in the area is because they've naturally been in a position where they audited their time, they audited themselves, and they're like, wow, actually, I need to improve this, I need to improve that, I need to improve this, which then seeps into their work habits. And, they essentially become like a better performer as well. So I 100% agree with the time side of things, because a lot of people sometimes make excuses of that. They say, I can't do this, can't do that, can do this, can't do that, until they actually really action things. And they start to realize actually what really works for them, what doesn't work for them, what's really a priority. That's when you start to realize like the power of them then transforming because of what they've done earlier. Yeah, 100%. Time for me is the best one there.
Yeah, I mean, time auditing is for everything, right? It you want to have more time with your kids, time audit. Do you want to be more efficient at work? Time audit. Like, how often do you scroll on social media? Time auditing is just one of these things that just allows you to recognize and then make sure that you're owning your time. And the difference really is right. The one who makes the time is the one who becomes successful. And then you can actually say, okay, how much time do I need for X activity? How much do I need for X activity? And then where do I find it? And then also, as Nathan said as well, like the whole thing about structure, if we know that on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 4 p.m. we are exercising, we are more likely to just show up and then do the exercise than to go, I think I'm going to train Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I hope it's going to be after work. All of a sudden, it becomes this flailing, like half-hearted commitment, which doesn't actually pave a way for any habits. So like structure is this thing that allows you to create habits, right? And when something is habitual, it's subconsciously just conditioned, so it doesn't then take you to like use conscious energy to actually go and execute. So locking time in your week for all the things that you want to have in, that's super important.
And the key
then also, yeah.
No, go on.
No, but then also understand that you have to then respect that time like it's important, because if you don't respect it, it's very easy to go, oh yeah, I'll just go in half an hour. Oh yeah, no, okay, I'll push it just one more hour. And all of a sudden shit hits the fan, and now you feel like the things that you wanted to do, actually sometimes the things that you enjoy doing, all of a sudden they become a chore and you don't enjoy doing them. And I recognized this when I was down in my summer house and I was sitting working all day, and I realized, oh my God, I haven't done any steps until 6 p.m. And all of a sudden the thing that I loved the most in life, walking, became this thing that I needed to chase. So if I would have then created a little bit better structure and go, okay, after breakfast or before breakfast, and then at lunch, I'll do this for half an hour, then all of a sudden it would have been a lot easier to just go and execute, because I would have already known that would have happened, instead of like hoping that I'll make the time. Then it's very easy to let time just fly by and disappear. And there's like, whoa, shit.
Yeah. That comes down to also negotiables, right? Like actually having non-negotiables in your day-to-day, because a lot of people sometimes don't. And that's the thing. God, Nate, you're going to say something.
Well, here's the thing with non-negotiables that I'm learning at the moment, is that it's never going to be a non-negotiable if you have lots of time to do these specific variables. And what I mean by that is that the negotiation that Emily spoke about with like, oh, I'll do it later, only comes because you are actually having quite a lot of time. So I think most people that are not doing what they say they're going to do at the specific times that they've got is actually because they've got way more time than what they think. And they're and actually, if you look at, like, let's say for example, I don't want to use me, I'm going to use me as an example, but this sounds a bit wanky, but whatever. Is that legit? I've got a lot to do. I run a business. I run a team of 8 now. It's a lot of people to manage and deal and try and do all the things. My training block between 10 and 11 is the only time in the day that I can go and train outside of going at 9 p.m. at night. And that's not going to happen because I'm going to go to bed. So I have no other alternative to go at that time every single day, Monday to Friday. Now, if you're working a shift job and you don't have many responsibilities, and it's responsibilities that's the biggest one, is that if you're in your 20s and you're living at home, or even if you don't live at home and you just end up, you don't have many responsibilities, you don't have a kid to ground you, you don't have a dog to ground you, you don't have responsibilities of looking after X, Y, and Z or whatever, those responsibilities ground you with your timing that if you don't have a business to be responsible for. The fact is that you've never had to structure your time because you've got plenty of fucking time. And now that people are asking things of you in terms of doing these particular things for yourself, it's that a thing of, okay, you become a little bit more structured, but also then you realize how much time you do have. So then you say, oh, I don't want to wake up at 6 a.m. and do my session, but then I'll just go and do it later at whatever time and you go back to bed. And then factually, you never actually get around to that evening stuff because you perceive yourself not to have the time or the energy to do so. It's the people that are doing their days or having 60% of their days full and have 40% of their days not full. And they're the people that struggle the most because they've never had to create responsibility in their actions because they could just tell themselves that they'll do it later. And then when they reflect on their week, or they never reflect because they've never had a check-in process before, they're like, oh shit, like I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And then it becomes that negative feedback loop. But like I said, like, and you said, Kay, is that if you create non-negotiables or you have the ability to create them and create responsibility with yourself, at this time, I'm going to do this, whether I want to do it at that particular time or not, then those things become non-negotiables. But be careful for the people that are listening to this. If you can look at yourself and say, I have time in the mornings, but I also have time in the evenings, you have to create a choice that it's no alternative. And that no alternative mentality allows you to beat procrastination. It allows you to be efficient, be more productive, spend more time on the things that you want to do at those particular times. If you don't create a no alternative mentality, you technically take up 2 blocks of your day because you say that you're going to do it in the morning, but then you don't do it. So then you do something very easy, either go back to bed or you just end up looking at your phone. And then you do it then in the evening because you haven't gone in the morning. You tell yourself that you're not going to go. And therefore, you've also then blocked up 2 hours of your day or even 3 hours of your day, which you haven't done anything with because you told yourself you were going to do it before or you're going to do it tomorrow. So you wasted 3 hours of your day because you said that you had alternatives. And because you have alternatives, you then do it again. It's the same as fucking Tinder. You go on Tinder, you go on a first date, you don't like them perfectly, so then you just go, all right, I'll just swipe for another one. Well, that's what I've done in the past. Mm-hmm. But like, it's like you can just swipe for a better one, and that's an alternative. Whereas if you were introduced to someone via a family member, and it was like you have the ability to, like when your mum and dad met, or when my mum and dad met, it was kind of like you had to make it work. Like that was you know, you're not gonna. There's not many fish in the sea in Runcorn, especially with 2 legs and 2 arms. So like, so like, you know, you've got to make it work. And like, these are the things that, like, when you ground yourself with responsibility, if you say you're going to do it at 7 a.m. and you've got an hour to do so, and that's the only hour you have, take the responsibility and do it. But that was just a piece on that. Sorry.
No, we saw a lot of that during COVID, right? Like, you think about it, how many people started negotiating with their times? Like, actually, I'm going to work out in the evenings now because, you know, I'd have to travel to the gyms. And then we saw loads, and there's two types of people, right? There was one that kind of kept to their structure, regardless of, you know, there's COVID around or not around. And they said, no, I'm still going to work out at the same time in the mornings because I'm used to my structure. And then there's other types of people who are like, I'm actually going to start, you know, because I'm at home now. It's fine. I'm okay. I don't have to go anywhere. So I'm just going to train in the evenings. And then what happened was their evening sessions became so bad because they've had such a terrible day at work, right? Because they've had like the impact of like, oh my God, I have this meeting, I have that meeting, or they start working even more. So then they miss the session altogether, right? So I think we saw this a lot during COVID, but also Nate, obviously you mentioned being busy now, but I think even a year ago, I don't remember, you're still quite structured. I think the structure never went off, right? So that's like saying, even if you're not a complete business owner, like now things obviously shifted. But even a year ago, I clearly remember that you knew when you were training. I remember your training, you knew when you were doing certain things, you knew when you were doing this. Like the structure was always there. It's not like structures had to change now, right?
No.
So I think regardless of what happens in the world, like if you still have structure, you still have structure. Like you turn from like, you work at a company to become a business owner, that structure still pretty much stayed with you regardless. That you probably became more structured now, but that structure kind of came with you. It's very difficult to go from like unstructured to structured. It has to be a lot of work you need to put in. And it starts from like time auditing. It starts from like understanding what do you want from this process or whatever the process that you're trying to embark in. Even if you have like a life coach, for example, they may be talking to you about this kind of stuff as well, right? So it's like understanding what you want in life and then where do you want to put your time into. Because sometimes people do that. They put into like dead time somewhere else and they're like, they don't realize it's not really impacting many like sort of fashion. That it doesn't need to be done to like use time there. But like what made examples there with business, but I still also think I knew him a year ago properly and I used to see what his day-to-day was. It was still pretty structured. And COVID as well, early COVID, even like a lot of people, you saw two different camps. I always saw loads of those different people were like, oh yeah, you know what? I'm going to work out later. And then they just didn't work out at all. And then you've got people who didn't work out at all during COVID then because they're like, I'm just going to, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. I'll do it later. And then suddenly it's a weekend and they're like, oh, I can't be bothered right now. Or they start blaming the dumbbells. It's the environment I'm in, or I don't like dumbbells anymore. I don't like this. So it became all of that as a result. And obviously things now probably will change, but yeah, I think it's a big one there. But I think we just went on a rant there, didn't we? Emily's just like, what the fuck are these two talking about?
Yeah, no, but it's the truth. I think if anyone takes anything away from this, like the biggest thing that we want to communicate is actually time and structure. And then regardless of that, what that structure actually look like, if you don't have a structure, you will not succeed long term because the structure is what keeps the house intact, right? And then, of course, you need to also have behavioral flexibility to actually not have the all or nothing approach, that if you, for some reason, couldn't stick to your structure, the house don't just fall down because you couldn't do it. But then still have the mentality of I'm going to make it work regardless, even if it wasn't perfect. Which then means that maybe I needed to push my session to the weekend, even though I technically don't want to train on weekends, or they can be whatever, right? So, but yeah.
Yeah, don't throw the toys out the pram. If one day hasn't gone for you, and think I'm going to start next Monday. A lot of people also do that, right? Historically, I've had a bad Tuesday. You know what? I'm going to start dieting next Monday instead. That probably kind of comes into it as well, right? Emily just there like, yeah.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, got the XL t-shirt.
Actually, I'll start next month instead.
And
and then suddenly, January's around the corner in 5 months.
Yeah,
easy.
The easiest way to plan your week, just so that if we can give some tidbits to help people do that, because it's important, but how do I do it? Every Friday, I sit down for the first 30 minutes of my day and I put in time blocks of what I'm going to do next week. So I'm working for the most part between 9 and 8, and I will put blocks of time between that of what time I do certain things. Now, you don't have to be as regimented as I do, but you have to have an understanding of where you're eating, where you're sleeping, where you're shitting, where you're socializing, where your family time is, where your work time is, and then have all of those things in play so that you can go into the weekend knowing exactly what you're going to do next week. Those that go into the week on a Monday with like a fingers crossed mentality of I hope I get time to train, never happens. Make it happen. And you make that happen by sitting down on a Friday and going, this is when I'm going to train. This is when I'm going to work. This is when I'm going to do family time. This is when I'm going to do a supermarket sweep. This is when I'm going to pay my bills, my utility stuff. This is when I'm going to contact this friend. This is when I'm going to speak to my mum. And then you can put all these things in, and that structure just gives you freedom because you know where you're going to do this one thing at that one time. And you can take comfort in knowing that you have set yourself up for success for the week after, because all the things that you're trying to achieve are in your diary. It's like the same as like finances. You want to save money. There's two options. One is that you transfer out, you put it into a bank account yourself, or you automate it like a direct debit. For the most part, your Friday planning is like your direct debit for the week, because you don't have to think about it from Monday to Friday what you're doing. You think about it the Friday before, the direct debit gets taken out that Friday morning when you do it, and then for the rest of the week, you know you've saved. You know you've done what you needed to do to get to the results that you want.
And you don't even think about it, right?
No, don't think about it at all. Like I show up on Monday morning to my desk, and I have my notepad, and then I relay what I've got in my Google's calendar onto my notepad, task by task, and then just cross it off as you do it. Cool. Made my protein shake, coffee, read my book, gone for a walk, done my training, worked for 2 hours, cleaned the kitchen, spoke to my mum, paid my utility bill, life admin, whatever it is, spoke to this person, done this, called this person, booked a meeting with that. It just goes like that every single day. And obviously if you're working in a corporate job and people are booking in meetings and stuff like that, then you have that sorted out. The rest of it is just knowing your schedule and knowing thyself, knowing thyself to know that on a Monday, there normally is a meeting between 9 and 10. So you just don't put your training between 9 and 10. You put it before you start work or during your lunch break, because you remain that stable base, or you put it after work. So, for me, it's like the most easiest, quintessential, important part of my week, because I wouldn't be able to get anything that I want done if I came to Monday morning going, oh, what am I going to do today?
Yeah, wing you.
Yeah, finger crossed mentality never works. I hope I get it done today.
Yeah, I do the same thing, but I do Sunday nights typically, or Sundays in general, where I design how I want my week to go. So for example, I know if I've got like consultations, I know like check-ins, I know exactly what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis, what time I'm training. I know the podcast I'm doing for the week. I know the content. Everything is like mapped out essentially for the week ahead. So essentially, I'm not a Bambi on ice by the time it comes to Wednesday. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on here? Like, I know exactly where I'm at, what needs to be done. I'm in a good position. And I think the more people can adopt that, and I actually talk about that in check-ins, to be honest, like design your life how you want it to be. Obviously, if you're working corporate job or you work at like a 9 to 5, 9 to 6, whatever the time is, like you still have time around that you want to kind of explore for yourself. Like I know sometimes, you may have to work overtime, etc. That's completely fine. And so do we. We sometimes will have to, if we have to work extra hours, then we will always do that, right? Obviously, for our own business is slightly different, but like, sometimes you have to go above and beyond. That's completely fine. But like, if you start having these non-negotiables and you set out time of, okay, I'm going to go and train at this particular time, don't start saying, okay, you know what, let me just move it to this particular time and then try and hope for the best. I think a lot of people hope for the best. It's like, taking a penalty blindfolded, folded, and then thinking, yeah, I'm going to score. It's just most likely not going to happen. So, and then betting your life on it, it's just not going to happen. So yeah, that's probably my advice as well.
Make your time important. That's, if people find that time is important, then you'll start to actually manage it in a much more efficient way. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Any other final words from you, Nate, on why you suck at dieting?
Nope.
All right.
No, and then once you get those, once you actually time block it, then the things that the method demands of you, you'll be able to do consistently.
Yep.
So then, if you go, okay, I'm going to try my Fitness Pal, then you know that you've got time in your diary to then put the entries in every day or on a week-to-week basis. And that means you know what you're getting from your supermarket, so that when you go to the supermarket, you're then structured in your choices, so you just don't go down every aisle and pick up whatever. And then if you try meal plans, or you try like creating a meal recipe structure for yourself, you know what you're getting from the supermarket, you know when you're cooking it, and you know when you're eating it. So then you're setting yourself up for success, and like any method works as long as those variables are done. And all you have to do is then repeat that, find what doesn't work, change it, and continue doing the process of time blocking. And there always is time. Like I can hear in the back of my head people listening to this podcast and be like, oh, I have this or I have that. It's like, it doesn't matter. Someone in the same scenario as you is getting results. What's the difference? You're not doing it. you know, and you're not changing your thought process. There's women with kids that look after them 14 hours a day, 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day, or 24 hours a day, still training. Why? Because they put the baby in the cot and then do fucking bodyweight workouts.
I've had that.
Yeah, me too.
Videos, right, where women literally, like, their kids are literally like sitting in the corner, drawing, or they're on an iPad or something like that, and I see like the mom's doing like an audio video and they're sending me the video there, and I'm just like, I just see a kid right there, quite cute. You've seen it all the time. Yeah.
And that's also where, like, the whole thing about the mentality of like, oh, it has to be perfect. My surrounding needs to be perfect for it to happen. Sometimes you have to accept that you're going to have to train body weight exercises at home when you have a toddler. Like, that's just, you know, how it goes. It doesn't give you, then you just have to then make the choice of that is how it's going to work for now, and understand that things is also always evolving. At some point, your toddler will go to daycare and you will have the time back. But to wait 3 years or 2 years, I don't know how long you wait in the UK to get your kid offloaded, then you're actually wasting 2 years of your time because you think that it needs to be perfect to actually execute something. It's like, no, you have to actually execute regardless if it's perfect or not.
Yeah. But you also see that with, like, during COVID, like the people who wanted to like wait till the gyms open up. Like I had several people like, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna wait till the gyms open up. They're the ones who still will never get results. Because they always wanted something like they always want something else going on. That's the thing. They always wanted something else. Like, all right, this is what's happening here. This is what, like, you know what, I need the perfect scenario. Like what Emily mentioned, there's gold as well. Like, don't wait for the perfect scenario. Just take action. And once you take action, you start to realize, okay, imperfect action is better than perfect action sometimes.
Drop the mic on that one.
There we go.
Drop the mic.
We'll be back for part 3 if it's needed. And we'll be back again next week, guys. So yeah, subscribe, send us to your friends and family. Shout out Trinidad, Tobago, the unknown parts of the world. You know, we've got, was the Australia one, Emily?
Ezrock.
Jesus Christ, I never even knew that place. But shout out to you guys. Drop us a DM, it'll be great. And we will be doing a world tour soon. So yeah, adios.